Two more names to be revealed, and our final inductee just made the cut-off mark. But then again, how could you have a Bulldog Hall of Fame, an inaugural Hall of Fame, without one of the great players and one of the favourite sons of the Scray?
From the moment he arrived at Footscray, Chris Grant was adjudged sheer class. He became the youngest man in league history to kick 50 goals in a season, and that was in his debut year of 1990. In those days, he was a mere pup, weighing in 80 kilos.
A great boost to the Bulldogs if they can get the first goal. Grant's kick is good.
The beauty of this young man from Daylesford was his ability to play in any number of key positions and dominate. A superb mark, a canny thinker, and with 554 goals, deadly in attack.
Oh, perfect tackle, you would suggest, to goal.
Some thought him too much of a gentleman to survive the hurly-burly of the game, yet time and again Grant proved them wrong. He won his first club best and fairest as he topped the goal kicking with 71 goals. 2 years later, he was at centre-half back and in stunning form, and came within a vote of taking the Brownlow. In '97, one of the great tragedies, as he did in fact finish with more Brownlow votes than the winner Robert Harvey, but was deemed ineligible because of suspension. A decision that was thought by many to have been a travesty.
Chris was suspended for one match. He is eligible.
By 2001, after a long apprenticeship, he succeeded Scotty Wine as captain and pressed on past 300 games. In 2007, he hung up the boots. His 341 games, the most played by a Bulldog, his name revered.
Chris Rolls-Royce Grant.
Tonight we honour one of the club's favourite sons, as Chris Grant is inducted into the Bulldogs Hall of Fame.
Good welcome. That's all right, isn't it? I reckon some of the 1,500 people here remember you.
Yeah, there's a few in the crowd that I recognise their faces.
Yeah. Good. It was a pretty much an uncertain start. You were 16, arrived at Footscray just as this merger news and the fight back started. Did you wonder what on earth happened?
Yeah, well, gee, it was a bit of a roller coaster that first 24 hours, and looking at the footage up there of it all occurring was incredible, because Mum and Dad actually dropped me at my relations place to start my career, and pretty much that night the merger was announced. So I can remember Terry Wallace receiving a grandfather clock for the BNF, and Peter Gordon and these guys the following day with a fight back starting. So it was a whirlwind start to my career.
You were drafted at 15, pick number 105. Suddenly you're in the rooms with the Royals and Fosters and Wallaces and Kennedys, all the big names. You wonder what on earth was happening?
Yeah, no, it was pretty surreal. I think most guys, when they arrive at the footy club, you know, they're walking on clouds, really. It's a dream to play at the highest level, and to arrive, you know, having watched, you know, players like Hawke and Brian Royal and Stephen Wallace and, you know, the Fozzies and those guys at the team, and then to be in a pre-season with them as a 16-year-old, you know, it was amazing.
Who was your mentor at the club? Who sort of took you under the wing?
Oh, look, yeah, Hawke obviously. I mean, Hawke, most guys that came into the team, Hawke put his arm around, but there were others too. I mean, you know, Choco and Rick Kennedy and all those guys who were, you know, going into their 30s, they were sensational to young guys, and so lucky. I mean, my table tonight, I've got my parents and my wife Mel and Liv is there, but I had my first coach as Terry Wheeler, and for a young guy coming in as a 16-year-old, you know, I've got a lot to thank you for, Wheels, and I've said it a few times, but I may as well say it again tonight, because, you know, as a young guy, guys like myself and Leon Cameron, and he just changed the way that we perceived ourselves. He made us believe that the club was worth standing for, and he just gave me a great start to my career.
So you get the breakthrough, you get to play a game. It's a pretty important game because the club is suddenly alive and kicking again. You play the opening match of the next season. It's against St Kilda. You're playing on Spud Frawley at one end and you've got the lunatic at the other end, fighting and wrestling in Plugger. What did you think? Did you have any idea what was happening?
No, the whole first year I reckon was pretty surreal. I mean, to go into my first pre-season, I thought I was going to die. And to survive it was one thing, and then to turn up to round one, to play my first game, and the first game after the merger, that was the important thing. Packed house, they were pretty much hanging off the EJ Whitten stands of roof, and there had to be close to 30,000 people there, which is incredible for the Whitten Oval. And we did get smashed. We got absolutely towed up.
What was Plugger like? Did you ever look at Plugger and think this is what I could be?
Well, I didn't want to be as big as him, but but he kicked 10 that day, the big fella, and
beat anyone up?
He beat a few up. Ricky Kennedy was probably the only one who could go halves with him.
The move by Alan Joyce down to the other end, was it something that you were keen to do, playing defence?
I think it gave me a real spark. I think I'd played all of my career at that stage as a forward line player, and I can actually remember Wheels trying me off a half-back flank once, and it was a young fella who'd only played 10 games of footy, and his name was Matthew Richardson, and he had 4 on me by quarter time, and Wheels said, "Oh, that's not working, Granny." So, but then Joyce and the guys, after a couple more years, thought that it would have been worthwhile, and I stayed there for another couple of years.
The whole Chris Grant story, you've got to ask the question about that night in 1997, the Brownlow. You're sitting at home. Just, you look back on it now, it looked harmless. Were you... I'm hoping that's for the decision, not the question. But just a shattering thing.
It was shattering for everybody. I mean, obviously, from a personal perspective, of course, I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But the end of such a great year we had, and we'd come from pretty much the bottom of the ladder. Fitzroy had gone out the year before, so effectively we finished bottom because we were 15th. And we made a preliminary final, and to lose the way that we did, I think we were just gutted. And then, of course, the icing on the cake was the Monday night. And the incident actually happened in round 7, so I must admit I sort of went throughout the year not even thinking about it, and being ineligible, you're not even thinking about it either. So it was a kick to everybody because of where we come through, and we had such a great year. But that's the game. So, but my memories really. You could think that that's sort of one of the things I look back on my career, but have a look at this night tonight. We've got 1,300 people here. We've got a whole room full of people who have, from Ben Bradley's. I walk into the club and watch the guys train once a week, and Eddie Walsh is sitting there. And I mean, it's easy to look at the negatives in footy, but from what footy gave me and what the club gave me, the opportunities, I'm a much better person for the experience. And I'm just so proud to have been a Footscray player. And I was talking to Peter Gordon out the rear here about the Port Adelaide thing that, God, that's been hashed up a few times, hasn't it? But the thing about that was, I reckon, 2 things. One, if I had left, I would have had to live in Adelaide for 7 years, and they won their flag 7 years after I almost went, so I would have had to live in Adelaide for 7 years. I don't know if I would have enjoyed that too much. And the second thing was, it would have changed me as a person. I wouldn't be here tonight. And, the Footscray Footy Club, Western Bulldogs Footy Club, I'm indebted to them.
I've just got one last question. When you overtook Dougie and played your 330th game, they had a function down at Docklands, and we were all given a bottle of 330 game red wine with your photo on it.
Yeah.
Can we drink it yet?
I'll have to bring up the 341 game because I finished on 341, so the 330 is probably off by now.
Thank God for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Chris Grant.
Thanks, mate. Thanks very much.
We've had the Pioneers through the era